The Belgian police have arrested 7 people in connection with the Paris terror attacks on Friday. According to reports, 2 of the 7 attackers who died in Paris were Frenchmen living in Brussels, one of them in the neighborhood of St. Jean's Molenbeek. The visuals on your screen are the arrests made in the Belgian suburb of Molenbeek. The identities of those arrests is not yet certain. There is speculation they could be accomplices or even terrorists who managed to flee Paris after spreading the carnage. In France, the police have detained 6 people said to be close to one gunman, Omar Ismail Mustafa. Well, let me quickly take you through about what is this suburb Molenbeek all about. This is a suburb of the Belgian capital, Brussels. Residents of this suburb are mainly Syrian refugees. Many have described this as a den of terrorists, one of the poorest areas in Europe. It has previously housed terrorists linked to various terror attacks on European soil. 3 Paris suspects, in fact, who have been arrested are residents of Molenbeek. A lot of planning and logistical support for the Paris attack seems to have originated in the neighboring Belgium. In fact, evidence found that the terror locations are leading investigators to a locality in Molenbeek, Belgium, which houses a number of Syrian refugees. 3 suspected accomplices have already been arrested from this region. Not only this, one of the terrorists reportedly entered European Union masked as a refugee through Greece this October, leading of fears that more terrorists may have entered the Schengen visa area through this route. A new video has emerged of the encounter between the terrorists and the French police outside the Bataclan concert hall. Police can be seen trying to storm the concert area. The attack on the concert hall was the worst of the multiple attacks on Friday. The video has been posted on YouTube by a local French journalist, also describing the sequence of events.
The shooting came from where the Bataclan is. So I heard the shootings like from a Kalashnikov. And even I could see, and I think we can see them in the video, the sparks. From them arriving really on the ground near the policemen, who were scared and stepped back. I could hear shouts from a woman lying down on the street, and she was asking for help. She was saying, "Aidez-moi, aidez-moi," so help me, help me. There is a policeman taking a person, a civilian, under his protection and taking her away from the scene, running, crossing the street where the shooting came from. They really seemed to be very nervous, even scared. It was like panic, in a way. You felt that it was not under control. They even didn't know what was going on.
The suicide vests used by the ISIS attackers in Paris were made by a highly skilled professional who could still be at large in Europe. That's what the intelligence and security experts are now saying. All 7 of the militants wore identical explosive vests and did not hesitate to blow themselves up. Experts say this is a worrying change of tactic for jihadists targeting France. Unlike the attacks in London in 2005, where bombers carried explosives in backpacks, Friday attackers used the sort of suicide vest normally associated with bombings in the Middle East.
Where the Bataclan is. So I heard.
According to the information, the deadly attacks in Paris were being planned for the last 9 months. In fact, 2 terrorists have been identified till now, one of them a Parisian and the other a 15-year-old Syrian who reportedly entered Europe through Greece, masked as a refugee in October. There are also reports that woman attacker was among those behind the carnage at the Bataclan theatre. Well, let me now quickly go across to my colleague Smita Sharma, who is joining us live from Paris for more on this story. Smita, very important developments throughout the day. The police have recovered some suicide vests, some AK-47 rifles from a car. There have been arrests made in Belgium and also in France. What is the latest as far as the investigation goes?
Well, as far as this particular abandoned car is concerned, that was recovered by the police with such a heavy amounts of arms and ammunition in it. This was the car that was actually placed outside the Stade de France, or the stadium where French President Hollande was watching that friendly soccer between France and Germany on that Black Friday, Ankit. As of now, we are outside the Bataclan Theatre. This is where the hostage crisis played out, and we saw several innocent lives lost. As you can see, the street right behind me, if I can ask Sylvain to just zoom in into the street, it's still been cordoned off on both the ends. There are police and security forces who are there. Media persons are not allowed beyond a point. This is a Sunday evening here in Paris, Ankit, but clearly while most parts of the city, we have seen them trying to restore a sense of normalcy. Shops have been opened. There is still that advisory for people to preferably stay indoors. Investigations completely on, and it's not just investigations that is focused here in Paris, but it's a multi-nation investigation that is ongoing at the moment, especially several of those key arrests made in Belgium. Also about those passports, remember, we heard about reports of one Egyptian passport being recovered. That has now been proved to be belonging to a refugee, actually. As far as that Syrian passport goes, we believe that this person tried entering European Union. He was registered as a refugee, in October this year. But there is a report in the Serbian newspapers that seem to suggest that this individual also traveled to Serbia. For now, not sure if this is actually an accused terrorist or this is simply a refugee. But clearly for people out here, Ankit, if I may just show you some visuals from the street, this is about the changes, the transformation that are happening here in Paris, that they are trying to come to, facts with. Does anyone of you speak English? Do you speak a little English?
No.
You don't? Do you? You do. Do you stay here?
No, I just come now.
Where do you stay, sir?
I live in 15 arrondissement.
Okay. Where were you on Friday when this
I
happened?
was at home.
You were at home.
Yeah.
How are people in France today worried? Are they scared? What is it that is you're feeling now?
I don't stand.
Are you scared today of coming out of your houses?
Yeah, just to see the place. I was before, but I don't know where is it exactly. Just come to see the place.
But are you worried, sir, today? Are you worried? Do you fear when you come out of your homes?
Yeah.
Little bit.
Yeah.
But we have seen these stories of resilience too, Ankit. People actually streaming into Republic Square with candles, cards, in the memory of those lives lost. Many of them, in fact, children as well. But investigations clearly at the moment sketchy, trying to fit in all the missing pieces of a jigsaw puzzle.
Smita, you're talking about the connection to Brussels, to the area where a lot of Syrian refugees are housed. How do you see this entire attack changing the whole dynamics for this refugee crisis where Europe, in fact, is concerned? Because there are many European nations that have been open to these refugees, including France. And now there are voices of the right-wing extremists, those who want borders to be closed.
Absolutely, this entire terror attack coming at a very, very fragile and a sensitive point in time, not just for France, but for the entire Europe, with this entire refugee crisis playing out as well. But what was heartening was, Ankit, remember, just after the attacks, we saw how people's outpourings happened across social media to real life, where they came out and said, do not start equating refugees with, the terror acts simply because there might have been one or two passports that have been found. People are very calm here, Ankit. I think Paris is a very, very matured society. It's a culturally elegant society where people have a sense of evolvement and they do not come out with knee-jerk reactions, really. We have seen them just, if this were, God forbid, India, we've seen the kind of reactions while people are very strong, but we also see the kind of panic on the streets.
Yes.
That is not visible on the streets of Paris, really. That gives hope. But for the refugee crisis, clearly there will be those right-wing voices that will try and important target. The refugee story as well. Hopefully sanity will prevail.
Smita, of course, there are many tales now of people, those who survived these attacks. How is the general mood there in Paris after this entire carnage?
You know, people are wanting to go back with their daily lives. There were a 3-day of mourning, national mourning that had been announced, Ankit. Now, this was the weekend, of course. So when schools, colleges open tomorrow on Monday, that's when a lot of people will perhaps come to face what just transpired. I came across a person last night whose very close friend survived. In fact, the kind of killings that we saw here at the Bataclan Theatre itself. And he was saying that how this woman who is a teacher, she's just so traumatized at the moment and so scared that what if she goes back to her classroom and finds some of her students missing, so that's the kind of a complex situation that people are waking up to. Remember, France has been undergoing a lot of changes, Ankit. The minority equations here, they are very fragile. The ethnic communities here, the one of the in fact attackers, who is actually a French 29-year-old man who was on the radar of the French police, but essentially for radical thoughts. He didn't really have a background when it comes to terrorism.
Yes.
I tried traveling to his village this morning. It took me around 2 hours to travel by train, and I was getting in a lot of voices on the train, people who were willing to speak more freely because it was off camera, and they recounted that how there's a lot of South Asian population, there is a lot of ethnic population there in the areas that this in fact bomber belongs to, and how they think that the relations with the French police and these minorities are very, very sensitive today. So even as the world changes, France itself changes, Ankit, and people are dealing with all these transformations.
Smita, before I let you go very quickly, there is a climate change summit that is going to place, United Nations climate summit that is going to take place in just about 2 weeks in Paris. How is the city now prepared as far as the security apparatus is concerned? World leaders are going to descend there.
Absolutely. Well, on the face of it, the city says that we are completely prepared. The COP21 summit goes ahead, and all the world leaders too have, obviously, nobody saying that we will not come into Paris following the Friday attacks. But remember, even at the G20 summit that is happening in Antalya today, which kicked off in Turkey, we saw an ISIS bomber blew himself off in southern Turkey and killing 4 policemen in the process. Clearly, these are challenges that now face the international community. They have to try and find ways to mobilize, in fact, to have a unified strategy. You cannot have distinction between good terrorism, between bad terrorism. But will the world leaders be able to put their regional divides or their regional vested interests across and stop treating the issue of terrorism as a checkboard or, as a checkered board for whatever power reasons be it? That is something we'll have to watch. But Paris, for sure, is trying to investigate several angles, including the fact that how did so much of assault ammunition actually manage to find its way into the city.
Smita Sharma in Paris reporting for India Today on the aftermath of this deadly carnage in Paris. Thank you so much for joining us here on this broadcast. Well, now let's listen in to a few voices coming in from the locals in Paris after the horrific bloodbath on Friday.
The life in Paris is going on. Let's talk to people about what they have gone through in this 24 hours. How have these hours been for you?
It's really hard to realize what is happening because I wasn't there when it happened, but I live here. I was at my girlfriend's home, so we learned that at the news, and it was incredible because, as you know, like 1 year ago, the Charlie Hebdo happened just not far from here, like 5 minutes away. And it's incredible to believe such thing could happen twice in the same town. And
are you going about? How's life looking now after these attacks? On the road, in the cafes, everywhere?
We won't go into terrace, because it feels scary to know anything could happen. And they did like 3 places at the same time, and you can't feel safe anywhere, but we have to move on, so just choose some place we know we could be safe.